Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NHL, local experts with the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got our Locked On NHL hosts here to break everything down for you from last night in hockey. But we're going to start out with the Penguins beating the defending champions badly in our best performance.
The best performance.
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
The Pittsburgh Penguins came out and dominated the two-time defending champs last night, looking good enough for our Locked On Penguins host to call it the best win of the season so far for Pittsburgh. Here's everything else he had to say after an impressive victory post-game.
Was that the win of the season for the Pittsburgh Penguins? I believe so. Hey, everyone. I'm Hunter Hodes here with the Locked On Penguins podcast as the Pittsburgh Penguins absolutely dismantled the two-time defending champions tonight, 5-1 in Amalie Arena against the Lightning. The Penguins were ready to go right from the jump. They struck just a few minutes in from Danton Heinen. Sidney Crosby was able to get a power play goal. The Lightning also pissed off Evgeny Malkin in the process. And of course, they played stellar defensively. And one more thing, got amazing goaltending from Tristan Jarry. This is the blueprint if the Penguins want to go on a deep playoff run this summer. They have a big matchup coming up on Friday against Carolina. If the Penguins win that, they can get to just within 1 point of first place in the Metropolitan Division. For more on the Pittsburgh Penguins, check out the Locked On Penguins podcast. I have a full game recap coming up for the Penguins Bolts game from Thursday. And of course, the Penguins Hurricanes one on Friday.
The Minnesota Wild trailed 4 different times on the road last night against the Philadelphia Flyers, but they still managed to come back and get the win over Philly. Our Locked On Wild and Flyers hosts give you both sides of the back and forth affair.
Not quite back yet, but man, does it feel nice to get a win. Hey, everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 5-4 win for the Minnesota Wild over the Philadelphia Flyers. The Wild trailed 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, and finally ended up getting the tying and go-ahead goals in the third period and held on for the win. A better effort for the Wild, kind of masked by yet another uneven start for Cam Talbot. And look, Talbot is clearly fighting it. At this point in the season, he has not had a good stretch of hockey, but kept the Flyers off the board in the third period. Can he build off of that going forward? The Wild also got a great bounce-back game from Ryan Hartman with 2 goals and a save to keep the Flyers from tying the game late with the net empty. With the Wild getting the win, they now head to Buffalo to take on the Sabres, and a chance to pick up a much-needed second win in a row. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure to follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts.
Russ Cohen from the Locked On Flyers podcast. Flyers lose a tough one, 5-4. They were pretty resilient in this, but at times in the second period, they couldn't hold on to the puck, and in the third, they just made some bad plays at the wrong time. Carter Hart got a fate he didn't deserve. It was just one of those games where the better team won, but there were times where the Flyers looked a lot better and a lot more composed, and then there were other times where you're just looking for puck possession. These are tough losses, and you hope they can rebound from it, but that's it from the Wells Fargo Center.
The Washington Capitals were impressive last night by taking down the division-leading Hurricanes at home. Locked On Capitals is here to tell you how Washington pulled off that upset.
Hello, this is Dan Homey from Locked On Capitals. The Washington Capitals defeated the Hurricanes 4-0 in a stunner. The first place Hurricanes versus the fourth place Washington Capitals. It was one heck of a game in DC. It saw goals from Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Faravari, and Dmitry Orlov. And then the big surprise, the pleasant surprise, Vitek Vanacek, providing that steady hand to net. He made 36 saves in a shutout. It's really a great feeling to have a steady hand in net. Keep it locked on to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news on your Washington Capitals.
The New York Islanders let a victory slip through their fingers last night against the Vancouver Canucks, and our Locked On Islanders host gives you the rundown after that disappointing loss.
Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. Islanders fall to the Canucks 4-3, a game the Islanders could have and probably should have won. They had a 3-2 lead early in the third period, and a year ago, the Islanders would have just gone into their shutdown mode, snuffed out the Vancouver attack, and sealed the victory at home. But this year, they just don't have that it factor, that little extra something that allows them to do that kind of thing that wins hockey games, that makes the difference between winning 3-2 and losing 4-3. Maybe it was the West Coast swing where adjusting to the time difference, it was a factor. Maybe it's missing certain players in the lineup, but overall, this Islanders team is just missing that cohesive factor that made them so effective last year, and the result is a 4-3 defeat. For more, listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get podcasts.
Coming up, how do the Coyotes keep beating the Avalanche? This is Locked On Now NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Now is brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar available. They're low calorie, low carb, low fat, low sugar, all of that, but they're high in protein. And more importantly, they taste really great because they're made with a 100% real chocolate. And some of their new flavors, the puff ones, have protein infused marshmallow. So you can't get much more tasty, but also good for you as well. They come in tons of different flavors. If you don't like marshmallow, there's a bunch of other stuff you can check out as well. So head over to built.com. You can use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at built.com. Welcome back to Locked On Now NHL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Let's continue our look around the league.
Let's go around the league.
Our Locked On Flames host will tell you Calgary put together a pretty good performance last night against the Canadiens, but it just wasn't enough to get the win. She takes you through the bright spots in the loss for the Flames.
So, the Flames, not looking too hot right now after a 5-4 overtime loss to the Montreal Canadiens. It was a great night for Ben Sherratt to go out there and bump up his trade value. I hope Kyle Dubas is listening. I hope Brad Treliving was not watching. And, the Flames had themselves a great night. What's up, everyone? It's Jess Belmosto from Locked On Flames, and I can't help but laugh in situations like this because we talk about it on the show. They play again really well for long stretches, and then they just kind of plunk in games against non-competitive teams. But I can't help but laugh. It's just, this team once again makes no sense, but what does make sense is the goals tonight. Johnny Gaudreau, Blake Coleman, Elias Lindholm, and Andrew Mangiapane. They're becoming your super reliable scorers as you head into the latter half of the season, and we are inching closer to the trade deadline as well as the playoffs, and these are some names that you're going to look for on the score sheet come April and May. As always, tune into Locked On Flames for more post-game analysis. Bye-bye.
The Colorado Avalanche may be one of the best teams in hockey this season, but one team so far has had their number at least twice this year. Our Locked On Avalanche host tries to figure out why Arizona, of all teams, is the one that's been able to beat the Avs.
So if I told you the team that the Avalanche struggle with the most this season has been the Arizona Coyotes, you might laugh at me, but it's no laughing matter. It's actually a fact. The Avalanche lose to the Arizona Coyotes again, 2-1, and that's twice they've lost. The Colorado Avalanche have 11 losses on the season. 2 of them are to the Arizona Coyotes. Who would have thunk it?
It's weird to call it a David and Goliath matchup, but something in the water in Arizona, Colorado has no match for. And goalies play out of their mind whenever the Avalanche come to play. And the Avalanche fell victim to another Coyote dominant defensive performance.
This was not for a lack of trying. The Avalanche played a good game. They got over 40 shots on goal. They had really good looks. Vamelka for the Arizona Coyotes was just Vasilevsky-esque last night. And they just got flat out beat. Sometimes you just have to chalk it up to you got beat. And that's what happened to the Avalanche. But they can't sit and sulk about it. They have a day off. And then the Calgary Flames are coming to town. And if that's not a big game, I do not know what is. So it's a loss. Lick your wounds and get ready for one of the hottest teams in the league, because that's going to be a must-watch game.
The Chicago Blackhawks sent their fans home happy last night with big performances from both their veterans and their younger stars. Our Locked On Blackhawks host gives you the details from the victory for Chicago.
Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat do it again. What's up, everyone? This is Jack Bushman from Locked On Blackhawks, and tonight the Chicago Blackhawks emerged victorious 4-3 in overtime to wrap up their 6-game homestand on a high note and to also win the season series against the Edmonton Oilers. It did take a 4-on-3 power play, though, in overtime for the Blackhawks to get the job done, and as I said, Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat connect once again to lead the Hawks to victory. This time, though, Kane set up DeBrincat for his 30th goal of the season. That's right. You heard me correctly, folks. Alex DeBrincat already has 30 goals on the year, just continuing to prove he's one of the elite snipers in the entire NHL. But a fun game from start to finish here tonight, filled with a lot of back and forth action. And also, with this being Duncan Keith's first time back at the UC since being acquired by the Edmonton Oilers in the past offseason, and it was also Nicholas Hjalmarsson's legacy night. You know, the Blackhawks had an extra pep in their step, so it was nice to see them play pretty well for the most part. I thought they did a good job of shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl. While they did allow the Oilers to score a power play goal here tonight, they held the Oilers' man advantage to only 3 shots on goal during their 4 opportunities. So the Blackhawks defense, I thought they did their job well for the most part. Kind of an unlucky bounce that led to Edmonton tying the game 3-3 to force OT. But it was nice to see the Blackhawks on such a memorable and heartfelt night pick up a victory for good old number 4, and I guess for good old number 2, even though he was playing for the opposition tonight. But just a couple of cool moments, cool video tributes, and it was nice to have that capped off by a Blackhawks victory at the UC. Just the second time they've won at home in their last 10 games. So they're hopefully going to be able to string together some more wins here in Chicago down the stretch of the season. For more coverage on this victory by the Hawks over Edmonton, be sure to check out tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your team every day.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Now NHL. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you check out Locked On NHL and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.